what we don't want in life is just data, right? So you're like, not this, not this. Instead of judging ourselves of like, oh, what's wrong with me? How did I get here again? We can learn to just utilize it as data and going, how did I get here? Where did I kind of slowly go down the rabbit hole? Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to remind you that this is the last call. It's the last call to fill out your application for the Alive coaching experience. Head on over to heatherchauvin.com/alive. That's Heather Chauvin, spelled CHAUVIN.com/alive, ALIVE. Inside of Alive, you are going to get immediate access to my energetic time management process. This is going to show you how to reverse engineer how you want to feel in every area of your life, giving you more time, more energy, and more focus. And not only that, we're going to dive deep into our emotional intelligence, showing you how to handle all life stressors when it comes to you. So head on over to heatherchauvin.com/alive. We start September 1st. Yes, and we will not be opening the doors for this program for the rest of the year. heatherchauvin.com/alive. That's your next baby step. This is you taking action to live a life that's in alignment with how you want to feel, so you can become the role model and become the adult your children need. How many times have you told yourself, if I only had more time? If I had more time to get things done, then I will be. And today I'm trying something different on the podcast. And what I'm doing is, and I'm going to feature a few of these in the upcoming episodes, is I'm actually going to do some live coaching with my clients. And the reason why I'm doing this live coaching is because I want to show you that change is 100% possible, but it's the way that we think of change or how we have to change that creates the possibilities in our lives. You may have heard me say this before. I'm all about strategy, and we all need a good quality strategy, but we have to pay attention to the emotional components to why something may or may not be working. And what I really appreciate and love about Pam and the conversation that I had with her today, and it's about 30 minutes, is she's been in my world for a while. She was a podcast listener. She would attend my events. She knew about my energetic time management process. She implements the energetic time management process, but she was still getting tripped up on why she felt like she didn't have enough time. And this is where I see people sabotage how they want to feel, creating more time and more energy in their day, but more importantly, in their physical bodies. So I walk her through a process that I do a lot with my clients, which is helping them get out of their head and back into their body. But more importantly, at the end of this and at the end of our coaching time together, I want my clients to feel empowered. I don't want them to be codependent on me to help them solve their problems. I want them to have the critical thinking skills and the self-awareness to solve their own problems. And this is what I notice happen again and again and again with my clients as over time, as we continue to implement these strategies. So I hope you enjoy, and I want to hear from you. So I want to know what your biggest takeaway is. I love to connect to the podcast listeners. So head on over to Heather Chauvin on Instagram, last name spelled CHAUVIN, and send me a private message, send me a DM, let me know which episode you were listening to and your biggest takeaway. I also love to send away signed copies of my book as well. So not everybody will get one, but I love to do that when people take initiative. So I will do random, random giveaways for my book, and reward podcast listeners who send me a private message on Instagram. So head on over to Heather Chauvin, CHAUVIN on Instagram and send me that message. Now let's dive into today's episode with Pam. Hello, Pam. I'm excited to be here.
I'm thrilled. I can't believe it. I'm very excited. Yeah.
I always like to, I just give people so much courage for raising their hand, one, but I also know you've been a long time podcast listener, and then now you're in mastery. And so I just think it takes a lot of courage to show up and to do this, but also you manifested this. It's like the constant showing up. So what are we working on today? What's your question?
All right. So my question is that I just started, sorry, I'm fixing my camera. I just started, I founded a nonprofit about 1.5 years ago. And as that, I am the CEO, right? So sort of by default. Mm-hmm. And so at the same time, I have 2 teenage children. And I'm finding that I have a really hard time finding time to accomplish everything in the day or the week or the month. And I just feel like I'm constantly playing catch up. I do religiously do energetic time management. I have a planner. I start off with, how do I want to feel with my exercise and my nutrition? And I write all that in first. And then I fill in all the other things, but I still don't feel like there's something that's not adding up.
So this is what I love about this question specifically, because you're already doing the work, right? So people will often be like, oh my God, I'm this. And then you give them the quote unquote tool, which for me is energetic time management. Of course, there's many, many tools, but this is what I'm really excited about for this conversation today, because I always say you can have a strategy, right? How many times have you heard me say that? I'm like, you can have a strategy, but we got to get into the energy of it and also the emotion behind it. Because usually it's the emotion that is running the show. It is not the lack of planning. So let's dive in. So you already have ETM. It's a practice. There's no perfection here. You're doing the things. So tell me, I know specifically you had like a scenario. So give me an example of something where you feel like hijacked in your day. You've planned for it and then life happens.
Okay, this is perfect because yesterday this exact thing happened. So yesterday I have a particular teaching module that I'm trying to prepare for my work, right? And so I planned to work on that 3 to 4 hours yesterday. I didn't get more than 15 minutes. And the reason why I didn't get more than 15 minutes is because it was like the contractor has a question. We're in the middle of a major renovation. The kids need to be driven places. My daughter's coach needed to have a conversation with me while I was at her sport. Then, I come home and it's like somebody needs food. And one of the things I wrote in my story is that, my teenagers who are normally complaining, there's no food in the house. They're actually right now because there's literally no food in the house. So now I'm Uber eating and door dashing everything. And I'm like, so yesterday, yes, I did not get all of the work done. So we're renting a home in another town, which the kids are not happy with. It's a long story. I'm not going to get into that. But the point is that at 6:00 last night, I made the decision to leave my house. I said, I'm going to the other house by myself. Goodbye. And I literally came here, and that's where I am right now. And I spent until about 11 o'clock last night sitting down and doing it. But that's not when I want to do the work, because that's not when my brain is the most energetic. But I had to get it done.
Yeah. So you were kind of being reactionary. You were like, how can I in the moment? Right. So, okay. So now we're going to go in, we're going to do my woo-woo-ness that I always do. And we're going to go in and we're actually, because I believe that you have the answers, but I always like to think about this like there's a closet, right? Mm-hmm. And your essence, like your intuition, your knowing, your desires are in the closet. But the closet is so jam-packed with all the things, you know, our responsibilities, expectations, the pressures we put on ourselves, the pressure other people are putting on us, the knocks at the door, the needs from the kids, the contractors, all of that. And here you are, like, I'm not going to say fighting, but you're not fighting. You're really taking a stand. You're like, I need to get this done. So there is a little bit of energy output, right? You're like, this is a non-negotiable. So what do? You physically leave. But I'm sure before you made this commitment, it was easy to procrastinate until all of this happens. So contrast, what we don't want in life is just data, right? So you're like, not this, not this. Instead of judging ourselves of like, oh, what's wrong with me? How did I get here again? We can learn to just utilize it as data and going, how did I get here? Where did I kind of slowly go down the rabbit hole? Mm-hmm. So let's go within. Okay. So if you can, Pam, if you can just close your eyes for a second. And I want you to go back. It was yesterday, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. So I want you to go back to yesterday. Was there any point in your day when you, and I'm using air quotes, felt in control of your time or energy? Like when you woke up, did you feel like, okay, I got this?
I'm going to say not yesterday, but like the day before when I had it written out in my agenda of what I was going to accomplish.
Perfect. So let's visualize with your eyes closed. We're going to go back to the moment when you felt still confident that this was going to get done. You wrote it down. How were you feeling in your body?
I don't know if ambitious is a feeling, but I felt ambitious, like confident, excited, hopeful.
Awesome. So you were higher on the emotional guidance scale. Okay. So now I want you to just visualize, and you do not need to tell me out loud when that, like what's happening, but I want you to visualize going through your day. That was, sorry, are we talking about yesterday or the day before when you felt hopeful?
Oh, the day before.
Okay.
The night before.
Perfect. So we're going back to that moment. Okay. And I want you to start just going through the day, whether you're sleeping, waking up, and tell me like the first instant where you're like, ooh, I was starting to lose hope.
So it was that morning. It was yesterday morning.
Okay. Now tell me, what was the thing that was starting to rattle you, shift your energy? So
I hit the snooze button. And so originally I think my alarm was set for, let's say 5:30. And I think I finally got out of bed about 6:15. And there I am judging myself.
That's okay. So let's do this. So, okay. So you're feeling hopeful the night before, you wake up and you're like, snooze, snooze. So what was the energy when you woke up? Like, why were you hitting snooze?
A part of it was because in the middle of the night, my dog had me up.
Okay.
Trying to bark after the deer outside. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, I didn't get a full night's sleep, so I deserve to have this extra hour, which really wasn't a restful hour because the snooze button goes off like every 9 minutes, right?
So now instead of, you know, we know the story, right? It's just the compound effect throughout the day and you're feeling like you're catching up to your time and energy. So let's just go back to that. The moment when you were hitting the snooze button, you woke up and you're like, oh shit, it's going to be one of those days. Like I can feel it. So instead of feeling like you're chasing your time, chasing your energy, we're going to do the work right here. Okay. So we're going back to that moment and we're not judging the situation. We're not watching ourselves hitting snooze. We're just going to go to the energy of how we felt. So going back to that moment, where would you say you were on the emotional guidance scale? Like, how did you feel?
At the moment, I felt like, oh, I did it again.
Okay.
I was disappointed. Disappointed, I think, is the best way to describe it.
Perfect. Okay. So you're waking up with this feeling of disappointment. Now tell me, how do you know that? Like, where could you feel it in your body?
Definitely in my back, because I felt like, right away, that's where I carry a lot of my stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually physically felt it because I bent down to pick something up and I stood up and I was like, oh, crap. There goes my back.
Perfect. Okay.
I hadn't in a long time. So
with your eyes still closed, I want you to bring your energy and attention to your back. And you could bring it to the space, like to the moment of where you are sitting right now, or you can visualize it back in that moment. Which one do you want to choose?
I think right now.
So bringing your energy and attention to your back. And are you feeling anything right now?
I just feel like it's, tight, and I get this numbness feeling too, which is I can't explain it. It's like a pain numbness. It's very strange.
So where in your back are you feeling that right now?
Like my upper, like in between my shoulder blades area.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's bring our energy and attention to the shoulder blades. When you woke up yesterday, it was disappointment. It may be something different now, but bringing your energy and attention there, and we're going to ask that feeling, right, that we can feel in the muscle. You're just going to say, okay, you got my attention. Why are you here? And Pam, I want to know the first thought that comes to mind.
I actually felt like this little lightheartedness in my heart, actually. And I was saying almost like a tickle, it's going to be okay. Like I almost feel like I'm getting a hug from somebody. Like the sense of it's going to be okay. And it's like that, that feeling almost like goosebumps,
Yeah.
letting go.
Yeah. So it's almost like it just needed your awareness. Like nothing much, just awareness. So let's just ask it again, and it could be in your heart, it could be in your back, going to the actual pain, the contrast of what you don't want. Doesn't have to be horrible. It could just be awareness, and asking it, what else do you need from me to feel safe, to relax?
More rest.
Mm-hmm.
More real rest.
Real rest?
Real rest. Mm-hmm. Actual rest. So when I say real rest, I mean not sitting on the couch watching Netflix and drinking wine. That's not real rest. It's meditating, going to watch the sunrise, real rest.
Now we're going to take that energy. So we'll talk about this after I bring you out, but we're going to go back to yesterday morning, how you felt like, you're trying to catch up with the time and the energy and creating this space to get things done. And I want you to visualize yourself embodying this energy of real rest. Doesn't matter how you got there. It's just the embodiment of the energy. And life is still happening. So the dog still kept you up throughout the night, but there's this deep, deep, deep sense of rest in your bones, this embodiment of who you've become. You still have teenagers that are being teenagers. You're still going through construction. But I want you to visualize yourself going throughout the day, knowing that you have to get something done and you're not going to abandon your needs. And maybe boundaries will be put in place. Maybe, you're going to be like, hey, I can't talk to you right now. I can talk to you at this time. How do you show up differently throughout your day? So just give me visuals of what's happening.
Okay, so I think one visual is that instead of just like barking orders at my kids to do this, do that, do the other thing, it's like, I need to accomplish this. And in order to do that, I need you to do these things for us, for this family. It's about like holding a boundary with them, but helping them understand. Well, from my perspective, explaining to them, this is what I need. I need this. I need this time and I need this space. And in order for that to happen, these other things, like I need you to take responsibility for these other things. Mm-hmm. Even if that's just their own self-care, like without me having to remind you every step of the way of all the things.
Mm-hmm. And I want you to visualize just maybe getting that, the call or the text from the contractor or the contractor showing up. How would you deal with that a little bit differently? Honoring your boundaries, honoring your space and time.
So say to him something like, I have 5 minutes to answer this question, or is this something we can handle? It's not an emergency. Can you call my husband instead of talking to me about it?
Okay. So just slowly open your eyes. And I know we're going to be here. We could do this for a while, but there's a few different things that I want to bring up. One, we're so used to go, 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 right? Mm-hmm. And then we want a tool. Everyone's like, give me a tool, give me a strategy. So then you learn energetic time management, which is a great visual because you're like, to do, time. But then there's the energy of like, I need to honor my time and space, which is where the deeper work happens. Mm-hmm. So Pam, I heard you say real rest. Your body said that. You said that. I did not tell you that. Mm-hmm. I agree with it. And so real rest now becomes your focus for your energetic time management. Mm. And that also becomes like a North Star. So you get to go at the end of the day when you're doing step 6 and reflecting on your day and future, you get to go, what did I do today? But how do I feel? Do I feel rested, like real rest? And then when you're about to binge out on Netflix and pour that glass of wine, you get to choose. Do I want to do that? Does that feel like real rest? Or am I sabotaging or is that a form of resistance? So you're like, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm going to go for a walk instead, because if I stay in the house, I know I'm going to slip into my old patterns. Mm-hmm. So then you just make those choices, and maybe you bring the dog with you. Maybe a child comes along. Maybe they don't. And you're just shifting the energy, and your North Star becomes real rest. Mm-hmm. And then, over a month or so, you start to focus and go, oh my gosh, I'm feeling different. And then the momentum happens and you're responding different. Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about.
Okay.
So now let's talk about the kids. This is parenting is a relationship. For some reason, culturally, that's a whole book in itself, right? Because we think raising children is like this different bucket, but all it is a relationship. They're human, they're adults or trying to be. And here you are as an adult, and it's the connection. So how old are they?
16 and 13.
Okay. So they've had their whole life to get to this moment, and you've taught them their whole life how to treat you.
Mm-hmm.
So the second you make a 1 degree turn, their shit comes up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you've made their lunch and breakfast, I'm making this up, every day, their whole life, the day you're like, that's it. No more lunches. And they're like, what's going on with mom? They're like, okay, but I don't know how because I've never been taught. So whether it's a physical activity, whether it's an emotional activity, mm-hmm. we have taught our children how to treat us. Mm-hmm. And then we add the layer on top of it that their brains are growing. We can add an additional layer on top of that of neurodiversity.
Mm-hmm. Got that going on. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes the neurodiversity is, then we feel guilty for the neurodiversity. So then we overcompensate for it.
100%.
Yeah. So if we want to have independent, empowered children, diagnosis or not of any kind, mm-hmm. we need to really honor their wants, needs, and desires as well, but have this deep, deep, deep sense of compassion for their human experience. Mm-hmm. So just like you were going through, having to slow down and be like, what is really going on here? Mm-hmm. They're experiencing the exact same thing. They're in the exact same turmoil in construction. Mm-hmm. Their brain is going a mile a minute trying to figure out their little bubble of life. Mm-hmm. They didn't get good night's sleep because whatever, maybe their sleep cycles are off. I know my teenager is like a night owl. Mm-hmm. So it's like we're all experiencing something. So compassion, number one. But if we don't have compassion with ourselves, mm-hmm. we can't teach it. We can't model it. The last thing I wanted to say, so one is your North Star, real rest, reverse engineering that using energetic time management, which because you're in mastery. Number 2 is kind of putting yourself in your child's shoes, right? Mm-hmm. We taught them how to treat us. Mm-hmm. And number 3 is being proactive instead of reactive in eliminating contrast. So what I mean by that is if I know, so sometimes I'll sit there, I'll have my pen and paper. I will sit there and I will close my eyes and I will visualize my day. And you may have heard me talk about the socks with my son. He has sensory processing.
Yeah, yes.
And every morning I was like, yeah, I got it. We're good. Everything. And then it's those damn socks that would screw up the whole morning. And I'm like, okay, so I'd visualize what is going to get in the way of my day. Not perfect, but is there any roadblocks that I can eliminate? And those damn socks would always be an issue. So every night I would make him try on the socks. And I would say, what socks are you going to wear tomorrow? Do you want to wear the same ones you wore today? Even if they're dirty, you can wear them.
Right.
And I'm like, and he'd be like, yeah, I don't know where they are. And I'm like, we're trying them on. And he'd be like, why are you making me try socks on? I'm like, we're trying on the fucking socks because, I would say that in my head if I was in my green zone because I knew the next morning that was going to cause stress and chaos. Mm-hmm. So me saying that in hindsight, knowing that you get many more growth opportunities, what do you think you could be more proactive about eliminating certain things with a contractor, with teenagers, with your husband, creating that time and space for yourself?
Okay. So with the teenagers, for sure, I just need time to sit with them and say, listen, like we're all going through this chaos together. We're still a family. and we still love one another, right? So what we don't want to do is to start barking orders at each other all the time. And everybody's fuse is so short that immediately we're starting to like snap at one another about every little stupid thing. So I actually would want to sit down and almost co-create with them, but with me at the helm kind of, but also like, what does it look like? Like same thing, like my kids, they do their own laundry. That's great. But they do the laundry and then they leave it in the laundry room, right? So when you are getting ready to go to tennis in the morning or you're getting ready to go to the farm, you need to have your stuff in your room. So what do we have to do to make that happen? But like, I think what it is I get in my head, like, we've been doing this, but they can constantly need me to kind of support them. Maybe remind is the word, but I think it's just support them and provide space, right? So it's like, we're not going into our rooms and being on our phones or whatever until we are prepared for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's not about me trying to control your screen time. It's about helping me, what's the word I'm looking for? Like fostering your, like, it's almost like me helping them with their energetic time management. Like in the morning, we don't want to feel like we're going through looking for underwear and the pile in front of the dryer. We want to feel like, okay, I got my stuff, let's go. So when I show up to my lesson or I show up to camp, my mind is ready to go.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to model for them. But I think they need more. It's almost like I feel like in my calendar, like with my energetic time management, because you said that word compassion. Like when I'm rushing, I had no time for compassion. I'm like, I ain't got no time for that shit. That's my husband says. I'm like, I really don't. I have no time for compassion. Just get your shit on and let's go. Mm-hmm. If I schedule time to like remind, like in my calendar, like, okay, this is the time where I'm going to check in with my kids. Just check in. Like, does everybody have their stuff for tomorrow? If not, what are you going to do about it? Not what am I going to do about it, but what's going to happen right now? Oh, I have to go into the dryer and get the stuff to bring it up. Okay. That's what I'm hoping will happen. But like you said, it's a process.
Yeah. And it's going to take longer than you want it to, right? We want to be able to say it. First of all, what I have learned, especially with the male brain, regardless male, female, it doesn't really matter, but talking less. So I actively, like I have 3 boys and a husband. Nobody wants to talk to me. Okay. Nobody. So when I'm like, how was your day? I get like stares, like, don't talk to me. And I'm like, what's going on? And it's just the male brain. They just don't want to talk. That's a general stereotype, but has brought me a lot of peace. So I'm like, okay, if I need to talk to somebody, I'll find my other people. But in general, I talk less and I hold a boundary. So I will say, it's the morning. Hey, tonight after dinner, we're all going to have a meeting to make sure that we're prepared for tomorrow, or we're going to do the work together to make sure we're prepared for tomorrow. One, I need to own what I just said and actually have that time and carve it out, not let something else take over it. Then when that comes, I know they're going to have resistance. They're going to be like, I want to leave. I'm going to a friend's house. I want to be on electronics. I want to do this. And I know that when I arrive to that quote unquote meeting, everyone's going to be pissed off and there's going to be lots of emotions. So I just need to be emotionally prepared for that. So in my brain, I'm already expecting chaos. So I can show up prepared for that. Then I show up. Sometimes I actually have to wear earplugs because the intensity of all of that, and I'm sensitive, is a lot, and I will blow my lid. So I just pop in little earplugs. Worst case scenario is wear my big headphones, but kids will be like, why are you wearing your big headphones? So I try to wear something that's discreet. So it just lowers the intensity of the emotion. And then I'm like, okay, tomorrow we're leaving. We're traveling. We have to get out of the house at 6 a.m. All right. Do you have everything prepared? The Wi-Fi has been turned off. I would love everybody to put depending on your house, whatever, everyone to put their cell phones, myself included. I will put my cell phone in this basket. Let's put a timer on for 45 minutes. and let's get our shit done. And then I don't care if you guys stay up all night. I'll even go out and buy you chips and pop. Just let's get shit done.
Yeah.
So after this 45 minutes, there's no yelling, and we're going to see how peaceful it can be in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to walk through it and be like, hey, do you have your underwear? Do you have your shoes? Do you have this? Do you have that? Awesome. And you're like, it's going to be annoying for you, but I just want you to know if we do this, it will be magic tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want $50 and you want $50, I'll give it to you. Just let's do this. Like, sometimes you have to do those things, but it's really you showing up. And then if you have any residual anger or resentment, because I know this is huge for women, one, you also get your husband on board. And I really don't think all partners are assholes. I think we are just so good at doing it all.
Yes.
That they're the same. You're like, okay, do that. And they're looking at you like, she's a fucking tornado. I don't know where to jump in.
Last night I told my husband I am running away. I am running away to the other house that we're renting that nobody wants to stay at. But guess what? See ya. He was like, and the other thing I did last night, which I was super proud of myself, I said, Declan needs jeans for our trip. And in 16 years since we have been parents, my husband has never, ever purchased clothes for our children, ever. And last night I texted him at like 3:00 in the afternoon. I said, tonight I would like you to take Declan to the store to get jeans. And that was it. And then I just like let that go, right? Because we're leaving on Wednesday for a trip. So he needs jeans for the trip. They probably need to be shortened today. I'll take care of that. But the point is, I was able to just offload that to him. And then he was like, okay, good. Instead of me being like, you never did it, which I still have that in my mind, but that wasn't going to be helpful. I recognized that. It wasn't going to be helpful for me to blame him. Like, when was the last time you bought clothes for our kids? That wasn't going to be helpful. But what was going to be helpful for me to let him know 3 hours in advance, you're going to take this kids shopping tonight. Because then my daughter went with them. And then I also, as I was leaving the house to come here, in my mind, I said to myself, instead of the guilt that I used to feel when I would do something like that, which thank you to you, this has definitely been a growth, because sometimes my kids will say to me, can you just go listen to Heather? Because they know. They're like, go listen to Heather. You need to listen to Heather. And so I, instead of feeling guilty that I loaded this on my husband after his full day of work and blah, 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 instead I said to myself, I just gave my husband an opportunity to see what it's like to be in a store with both of our kids in 2 different departments, both cranky about being there. And it's an opportunity for him to be a dad and be in that space with them that would not happen even if 4 of us were there together. Because he'd be off in the men's department and I'd be in the kids department with them. So, and this morning when I spoke to him briefly before we got on this call, I didn't even ask him, how did it go? Did we get enough jeans? Because honestly, it's not important until I get home, and then I'll deal with it.
Yeah. I love this. Okay. What are you walking away with today?
So for sure, I'm walking away with the idea of real rest, which I believe the universe sends us messages. This morning I box a couple times a week, and this is my boxing instructor. Before we even started, she handed me a foam roller and she was like, you need to roll that shit out. She's like, before we even put the pads on. And she was right. And she's like, and she also is having some injury issues physically. And so I'm like, we cannot just keep driving and driving and driving. Like, I feel great when I box, but then I don't rest. I don't. So it's the real rest. That's the first thing. The second thing is making time for me to feel compassionate that my children are having a human experience. And I feel like that compassion will connect with that real rest. When I have time to really rest and think and have space, which is part of the reason why I came to this house, because it's very rustic and it's like things are, it's basic. It's a very basic house. And I'm like, oh, it feels so good to be here because it's simple. But I can create that in a lot of ways in my own home. I can create that space. It's just like being intentional about putting that in my calendar before how many calories am I going to burn? What types of nutrition am I going to eat? It's like, when am I going to rest? When am I going to take a break?
Yeah.
During the day, before the day starts, when the day ends, like every day. I feel like 3 times a day at least, I want to build in, not including my sleep, like rest in the morning when you first wake up. Don't just bounce into your day, because that's when I get angry. And I had written that in my story that I need a minimum. I'm finding 90 minutes before I see another human. I need that time.
Yeah.
And my family sometimes thinks I'm crazy to get up that early, but I'm like, if I don't get up that early, because during that 90 minutes, I'm meditating, I'm journaling, I'm burning sage, like I'm doing all, and I always feel better on those days.
And as you start to integrate these things, it just becomes your identity, right? So it becomes your personality. And people assume like, oh, I've always been this way. But we have seasons in our lives too, right? So there'll be a season of deep rest, and then there'll be a season of growth and visibility, that whole slow down to speed up. Mm-hmm. And it's unique to everybody. Mm-hmm. And for some people, it's like, I'm in the season of, I don't want to say resting, but like really going in for a while, where now if I continue, that is a form of resistance. So now it's like gaining momentum in the opposite now, where it's like, okay, you are deeply rested. Now it's about like the coming out, right? Like, so it's really observing what season you're in. And for most of the women that I attract, when they first start with me, it is, you can still get all the things done, but it's how you show up in between that is going to be that thing. So it's just constantly asking yourself, what can I declutter? So a lot of people will ask for my time and energy outside of work, and they say, oh, you must be so busy. You must be so busy. I'm like, I'm not busy. I'm living my life, but I actually cut out a lot of obligation, like social events, and, everyone wants to have coffee with me and walk. And I love people. One, I'm wildly introverted, and people don't understand that. Two, if I'm going to show up to something and there's a tinge of I'm doing this out of obligation, it takes energy from you. So it's like just cutting out, just saying, no, thank you. No, thank you. I don't have the capacity for that. Sending you love. Like, I'm always like, oh my God, I'm cheering you on from the sidelines. I just don't have the capacity. And it will take a lot of time to get to the point where you can say that without guilt. So. Good job, Pam.
Thank you. This has been awesome.
What I really learned through Heather's program was that I have the ability to own life and create space. But I was really lacking the ability of how do I do that? How do I love myself first? So that's where I was. I was in a life of complete overwhelm. There were modules that she offered, and I love kind of doing work, studying. I'm a learner personality. And so for me, the combination of being able to work some modules online and then also be part of a private community of women. I'm the same person, but I'm making deliberate choices about how I want to live. So I am scheduling a babysitter every Sunday from 2 to 6 so my husband can go out and talk through my goals and his. And I am, instead of sitting on the couch with my son and our cell phone watching the computer screen, I'm spending deliberate quality time with him, playing with toys. I just feel like I'm being more intentional in how I'm using my time. And it's been amazing. My relationship with my husband is better. My work relationships are better, and I'm loving myself, which was something I never feel like our society doesn't teach that. And there's a lot of pressure on women to do and be everything for everyone. And I played into that, and I don't do that anymore. So I'm a lot happier and healthier as well.